Well, hello everyone. For those of you who are in the webinar already, welcome. And my name is Steve Johnston, if you don't know me, although I'm sure you kind of have got some bearing as to who I am if you're sitting on the webinar. And it's a great pleasure to have so many of you on the line today. We're going to spend an amazing 2 hours together. 6 secrets for surviving tough markets. So these are the 6 things which the researchers proven the top agents give themselves to in tough markets. So these are the things that will help you get through a struggling economy. And as I'm going to tell you in a second, to me, it's not just about surviving a tough market. It's about gathering momentum in your business so that when the fruitful season comes, which is summer in South Africa, that your business has got some momentum when you hit summer. That's what I want to help you do. And that's the purpose of today's webinar. So welcome to all of you. So good that we can gather together in this way. I actually love webinars. I think it's such an amazing way of doing training. Obviously we don't build relationships this way with one another, but you know what? If I'm standing in the front of a hotel room and I've flown to Joburg and I've hired a car and I'm away from my family and all that, I don't get to build relationships with you anyway. And then you've got to sit in the traffic and all that. I just think this is such a wonderful way of doing things. And you can interact. You can talk to each other. You can ask each other questions. I've even had someone ask someone out on a date before. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, they don't really care what the person looks like. But anyhow, so that's exciting. What I want to do is I want to start off with a little poll. And I'm going to ask you, when I put the poll on the screen, you'll see, be honest. Okay, don't give your Superman bulletproof, positive thinking, name it and claim it faith mode. Just be honest with the question that I'm going to ask you and give an honest answer. And then when everyone has given their answers, I will then publish the answers on the screen. Now, in fact, you know what? I'm going to end that quickly. Sorry, you would have seen it for a second. It's disappeared because I need to click the button that says display the results. Okay, so you should be seeing a poll on your screen right now, which says, honestly, how tough are you finding the economy? And just be honest. Yeah, it's okay to be honest. And the options are, this is the worst that I've experienced. I've been in real estate 10 years, 15, 20 years, and this is the worst it's been. Number 2, it's tough. It is tough right now. 3, it's normal. It's a normal property market. And then the 4th option is, I'm doing surprisingly well. Everybody says it's tough, but I'm actually doing pretty well. The last few months, I've sold 3 or 4 homes a month. And then the last one is for the person we hate, who says this market is awesome. And I mean, maybe your business model is such that you happen to thrive in times like the ones we're in at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple more seconds. I've just been waffling so that it gives you time to fill in the poll. And then I'm going to publish the results for you. Okay, so you got about 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Lift off. Okay, here we go. I'm going to publish the poll now. And you're all going to see what the results were. 20% of people are saying this is the worst they've ever experienced. 20% of you. I mean, that is a significant percentage of people are saying this is the worst it has ever been. 63% are saying it's tough. It's tough out there. And I mean, there's 15% of you left after that. 7% say it's normal. 8% you're doing surprisingly well. No one, no one is. This market is awesome. So, guys, the reality is, as you look at this, 83% of estate agents in the country are saying, man, it's tough out there. It is really tough. And so that's what the purpose of today's webinar is. It's to help you survive in this tough time, but not just survive, but actually build momentum towards summer. So what I want to read you a quote from Adrian Goslet. He's the chief exec of Remax Southern Africa. He said, this was an interview on on Private Property's website. He said, in South Africa, during the spring and summer months, sales activity increases. And as a natural consequence, property prices are firmer on the back of this increased demand. The effect on prices may not always be remarkable, but the effect on sales activity is often quite noticeable. So, it's tough and all that. Part of that is we're in winter, okay? We are heading towards summer. But I believe that every one of you on the webinar today should seriously be considering what you are doing in these next few months so that you hit summer with momentum. Because there is this increased demand and increased activity in summer in South Africa. The reasons for that are people get their annual bonuses at the end of the year, salary increases normally end of the year or year beginning like 1st of Feb or whatever. The school terms and university terms obviously run in South Africa from January to December. So people are organizing their lives at the end of the year for new schools and all of that. And then obviously, places, homes just look better. Gardens look better in summer. So at the end of today's webinar, I am going to be opening registrations for a 4-month mentorship program, which will run from Tuesday next week, okay? So that's the 3rd of September, all the way through to the middle of December. And on this program, I am going to help a handful of you step by step over the next 4 months to implement a bunch of these techniques that we're going to be learning today, with a special emphasis on helping you set up a referral system in your business, so that by the time we get to summer, your referral system is up and running and it's got momentum and it's beginning to bring in referrals, so that as people are hearing friends, family, colleagues, etc., who are wanting to move, you are perfectly placed to get those referrals. Now, I can help you do that. My referral system is it's simple because it's not difficult to understand, but there's lots of little working pieces that we have to build into place. You can't just start working by referral tomorrow morning. There's some stuff you've got to do. Now, that's the purpose of this mentorship program, that I am going to help you personally, step by step, over these next 4 months to implement the referral system. Okay, this mentorship program is the best thing that I have developed in the last few years of my business. I am very excited about it. And I'm really excited for those of you who do get a place on it, because there are limited places I can take. So more on the Hit Summer Running program at the end of today's webinar. So just hang around till the end and I'll explain how it works and how much it costs and all of that. Okay, so just a little testimony I wanted to just share with you up front for those of you who don't know me. I've got lots of these. This is a WhatsApp I got the other day from Sonia. So Sonia Thielen is one of my mentorship clients previously, and I got this a few weeks ago in July. She says, "Hi Stephen, just completed my 4th thank you note with vouchers," and she says that because that's one of the things that I've got her to do, for referrals received since Friday. This was Monday. This course is the best thing that happened to me. Thank you. And so this system, which I am going to teach those of you who get onto the mentorship program, has revolutionized people's businesses like Sonia. It revolutionized her business. And I've got scores and scores of these testimonies that I could show you. So the system works. We know it works. It's just a matter of will you implement it or not. So what I want to do is just hear it for the Institute of Estate Agents. I want to say thank you to Kate Colesell, who's been a great partner through the years. And we've managed to put on lots of these kind of free webinars for you guys. You don't pay for this. One of the reasons I get irritated, sorry, I should not get irritated, but I get irritated with like people who send me snippy, rude emails that they didn't get this and they didn't get that. And actually, you know what? This is free. Nobody pays for this. You don't pay for this. We're taking time and money to put the stuff together. And I think it's just good manners to say thank you to the Institute for putting these events on. So I want to see it in the chat roll. A shout out to Kate Colesell, whoever your local institute chair lady or chairman is, just please say thank you. I want to see that in the chat roll because these guys really do put an effort in for all of the agents. So thank you to those of you at the Institute. Okay, great. I'm starting to see lots of thank yous come in. Thank you guys for saying thank you. Right, yes, value items. Okay, I am going to now put a link in for you to get the free value items. Remember, I promised you that you would get my 5,000 Rand repository of newsletter items for free for coming on the webinar. So I've put the link at the top of the chat roll bar. Click that link. It should open another tab on your browser. It won't take you away from this page. I certainly hope not. I'm going to click it now. If I disappear, it means it's redirecting this one, and then I'll log back in. Don't worry, I'll get you. I'm just going to test it. Yes, okay, good. So it opens another tab on your browser, and that'll give you the free value item. So I'm going to take that link down in a second. So just click it now. Okay, so what's happening? I can tell you what's happening now. 420. Wow, 420 people on the webinar. About 100 of you were late. What's wrong? So about 400 of you have now clicked that link, and you are not listening to me. You're on another tab on your browser, and you're busy getting the free value items. Can I just ask you, just register for those value items later. That tab is not going to go anywhere. It's going to be there at the end of the webinar. Just enjoy the webinar. And that's the next point I want to make to you is be kind to yourself. There is great wisdom in taking time out from working in your business, busy, to think strategically about your business, to work on your business. That's what you're doing here for this 2 hours. If you focus, give me your attention until 12 o'clock, I can guarantee you, you will have ideas that come to you during the webinar today that make a difference in your business. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. You will learn something today that makes a positive impact on your business. But if you're on another tab, or you're on Facebook, or you're answering your phone, or you're chatting to the people around you, you're going to miss it. Just be kind to yourself. Allow yourself the freedom to enjoy this 2 hours, okay? So this is now a summary, this slide, of what the 6 secrets for surviving tough markets are. I'm going to give you all 6 of them now, and then we'll go through them one by one. 3 of the secrets, I will do the teaching on myself. The other 3, I've interviewed industry experts in those 3 fields, and I'm going to show you the interviews. Okay, 3 brilliant interviews. Each of them is about 12 or 13 minutes long. You'll love it. Okay, so here we go. Here are the 6 secrets for surviving tough markets. Number 1, very exciting. You've got to cut your costs. You've got to cut your costs. So we're going to have a very mature discussion about managing your expenses. And it's going to feel like you are taking a trip to the proctologist. Number 2, price with precision. Pricing is a fundamentally important skill, particularly in a tricky market. Okay, that's going to be an interview with Michelle Taylor-Rebel. Number 3, get your listings to stand out from amongst the crowd, which means you have to stage your properties well. Home staging. I've been saying for a few years now, I think home staging is going to become a growth industry in South Africa, and it's beginning to happen. There is now an official, like an Institute of Home Stagers of South Africa, and I got the chairperson of that institute to do a 12-minute interview with me. Her name's Lisa Jossel, and it's fascinating. Number 4, you got to generate more leads online. You know, online marketing for many of us is this it's just like this minefield. You can pour money into Google ads, or you can spend hours and hours setting up your LinkedIn profile or whatever. And then, how do you actually get quality leads from it? This is what we're going to be talking about. I've interviewed the chief exec of Prop Data. That's South Africa's premier real estate online marketing consultancy. Brilliant group of guys, and this guy is the guru on online marketing for real estate. Brilliant interview with, his name's Mark Mark Buttress. Number 5, then you've got to generate more leads offline. Now, I'm going to get to this later, but still, 2/3 of every listing being given to estate agents as a sole mandate in South Africa are the agent gets that lead through a relationship, either through repeat business at someone they've worked with before, or referral business. They are referred by a friend, a family member, or a colleague. 2/3. You have to have a referral system. You have to have a relationship building system that runs in your business. Okay, that is what I do. I teach a proven referral system. I will give you an overview, a very quick overview of that referral system today, so that at least you know what it looks like. But that's what I will teach you and then mentor you through implementing over the next 4 months if you join the Hit Summer Running program. And then number 6, you have to convert more qualified leads. You've got to qualify your leads to appointments. More leads to appointments. You've got to get more face-to-face appointments. And I'm going to make a very strong argument for that later. And then I've got a little gift for you. I'll give you when we hit there. I'm going to give you a lead follow-up script that you can use when you follow leads up on the phone to say the right things, to qualify those clients, and then to get a face-to-face appointment with them if they qualify positively. So there we go. Those are the 6 secrets for surviving tough markets. We're going to jump into secret number 1 now, which is cutting your costs. Okay, so are you ready for a very mature discussion? So manage your expenses. Let's get straight to the point. You got to cut your costs. Understand, guys, that in a tough market, you have to make changes. Can't just be business as usual. You have to embrace that idea. You've got to see it as a challenge, in fact, that if you do it correctly, these changes that you make, these will put you ahead of your competitors because they're not making these changes. They're just treating it as business as usual, business as usual. You must be the one who is front-footed making the right changes. And you've got to settle in your heart that that is going to be uncomfortable. Okay, because if change was easy, everybody would do it. You know, success would be easy for everyone. But change is not easy, particularly the changes that make a positive impact in our businesses. And understand that the most immediate, the most accessible change that every one of us can make is this, to cut our costs. But it is also the change that can have the quickest impact on your profitability and your cash flow, which is what is the problem with a tough market? At the end of the day, it's because cash flow is reduced. Well, the quickest way to protect and improve your cash flow is to cut your costs, not to increase your income. Okay, so let's just think logically about this. In a tough market, inevitably, income drops, right? But don't miss this important point. Just because income is dropping, your costs don't naturally drop with your income. Okay, your costs stay the same. And if your income drops and your costs stay the same, there goes your profitability. And in fact, at some point, you're going to cross the line and go into what we call the red, where you are earning less than you are spending. So what this means is the quickest way to protect your profit margin and your cash flow is to cut your costs as income drops, so that as income drops, costs drop as well. Okay, and what that does is, if you will manage your expenses wisely, cut your costs ruthlessly, it will extend the length of time, the period that you can survive in this tough market without, before going bankrupt. Okay, so for this reason, cutting your costs is the change which you make first. This is the first thing you do in a tough market because it produces immediate results, whereas trying to increase your income will take time. Part of what I want to help you do in the Hit Summer Running program over the next 4 months is to set up a system that will increase your deal flow. It will give you more deals. It'll increase your income. But we just got to understand that's going to take time. You can't do that overnight. Okay, so of course, for the rest of the webinar, the other 5 secrets for surviving in tough markets are all about increasing your income, but that takes time. You first have got to cut your costs. So the downside of this, of course, is that cutting costs is one of the most uncomfortable changes to make. We don't like stopping spending money on things we're spending money on. But I can tell you this, once you start the process, it's easier than you think. You might be surprised how many commitments you have in your monthly and annual budget which are actually unnecessary. Because, during the good times, it's so easy to rack up expenses. It's so easy to make commitments. We commit to subscriptions we don't really need, or to services that we don't really, at the end of the day, they make a big difference in the business. We subscribe to like marketing platforms, all different things which don't really bring in quality leads if we're honest about it. It's also easy in good times to hire people who we don't really need to hire. It's also easy to pay service providers to do things that, truth be told, we actually should do ourselves, but we just don't want to do them. So in good times, we pay other people to do things that we could do ourselves. In a tough market, all of those unnecessary expenses have to be cut out of your business. And then on top of that, the expenses that we still do need to incur must, wherever possible, be renegotiated to bring down the cost, or resourced, use a different service provider to reduce the cost to us. Now, before you can misunderstand what I'm saying to you on this whole cost-cutting exercise, I want to be very clear with you. When I say manage your expenses, cut your costs, I am not just talking about your business expenses, although that's obviously where you're going to start. But I am also talking about your personal expenses. Okay, for most estate agents, your business income is virtually identical to your personal income. Whatever you make, you just consider it as yours. So when I say you got to cut your costs, I mean you got to cut both business costs and personal expenses. Both your business and your personal or home budgets have to be reworked. And I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? If you can reduce your personal expenses, it means that you can draw a smaller salary, which in turn means your business needs to generate less money to survive. Okay, now, if you were listening closely to me there, you would have heard me say the B word. Now, the B word is just as much of a dirty word. Well, it's the dirtiest word that any entrepreneur has ever heard or spoken. And of course, I mean the word budget. If you want to control your business and personal expenses, this is going to sound profound, I know. If you want to control your business and personal expenses, you have to know what they are. I'm amazed by how few entrepreneurs, and I have been like this in the past because I've owned my own business for over 20 years. I'm amazed by how many of us entrepreneurs at times don't have a firm handle on exactly what we are spending money on and how much we are spending. You have to have a complete, up-to-date list of all of your expenses. Now, that must include your monthly recurring expenses, stuff you spend money on every month, and it must include annual expenses, things that you pay for once a year, like renewing your Fidelity Fund certificate, for example. Now, that's all a budget is. It is a comprehensive list of all of your expenses. Now, I recently did this for my own business because I drink my own Kool-Aid. I'm taking my own advice. So I did this a few months ago. I went through the bank statements. I made a budget of everything I'm spending money on. And in that process, you're going to be surprised by this, I managed to cut my monthly costs by 75%. 75%. 75% of stuff I was spending money on, I actually did not need to spend money on. It was stuff like I use lots of software in my business, and they're all integrated. And I had to look at every single one of those pieces of software, and I had to really ask myself, is that piece of software genuinely making money for me and my business? So I had a piece of software called Deadline Funnel, which puts a countdown timer on your online sales pages that redirects the URL to another URL once the countdown timer is gone, so that you can create genuine urgency on a page. And when I looked at it, I mean, I loved that piece of software. It took me forever to find a piece of software that could do that. And at the end of the day, I had to admit, it's very cool, it's very flashy, but it's not making enough money. It's not washing its own face. So stuff like that. I canceled my telecom landline. It's incredible. Like, you've been in business 25 years. You'd think, gee, you don't have a landline. What kind of business person are you? I never use my landline. So I just canceled it. So that saves me $400 a month. It's only 400 Rand a month, but you know what? It's 400 Rand a month. So, if you multiply so 75%, you know what that does? That multiplies the amount of time that I can survive this market by 4. I can survive now 4 times longer because my costs have been reduced by 75%. That's the power of a budget. Okay, and then working your way through that budget to cut out all unnecessary expenses. So I'm going to give you a 4-step procedure, which I am now going to teach you to help you intelligently go through this process. Okay, so are you ready? Here it is. 4-step procedure for managing expenses. Number 1, you have to go through 6 months bank statements. So you've got to prepare accurate budgets, a business budget and a home budget. The best way to do that is to go through 6 months bank statements meticulously. I say 6 months because on most internet profiles, you can only get up to 6 months of your bank statements that you can download at one time. If you've got them saved on your computer, go through 12 months bank statements. Then you're not going to miss out on any of your annual expenses, which might not have happened in the last 6 months. So go through those bank statements line by line by line by line, and you open a blank spreadsheet on your computer. As you're going through the bank statements, you are now going to write down on the spreadsheet all of your recurring expenses. So in column number 1, you're going to list every single expense, whether it's an annual recurring expense or a monthly recurring expense, stuff that you're spending money on consistently. So, and then on the column on the right, you write down how much it costs you on average per month. So you'll have a cell phone bill, 2,500 Rand, and you keep going. Again, be careful to include any annual expenses which are not on the bank statements you're looking at, and also any cash expenses. So a line item on your bank statement might say cash withdrawal from such and such an ATM. Let's say you work a lot with cash, you draw out 5,000 Rand. That 5,000 Rand just can grow wings and fly away. You've got to hold yourself accountable for the cash that you spend. So you keep the slips of everything you're spending cash on, you put them in an envelope if you need to, or just keep them in your wallet. And at the end of the month, you pull out all those slips and you reconcile what you're spending cash on. You can't just draw money out of your bank account and not be accountable for what you're spending that money on. Now, you're going to get ready to start slashing, because step number 2 is a wonderful exercise which I learned from Gary Keller. He calls it red light, green light. What you're going to do is you've got your spreadsheet now that is complete and comprehensive. You've got all your expenses listed and then how much they cost you in the next column. Now, you can do this on Excel. You can highlight blocks, certain colors. If you've done it handwritten, that's fine. Then just use a highlighter. You're going to go through this list of expenses and you're going to play a game called red light, green light, where for every expense that you get to, every single one of them must be highlighted, either red or green. You ask yourself whether this expense pays for itself in the revenue that it generates. Did you get that? Does this expense bring in at least the same amount of money in income. Is this income generating? Every expense on your budget, unless it is like a statutory thing, like renewing your Fidelity Fund certificate, it's got to act like a profitable investment in your business. A profitable investment is something you spend money on, but it brings in more money than you spent. Okay, in other words, if this expense is not making you money, cut it out. And I guess you could extend that to say, if cutting this expense out will not lose you money, if cutting this expense out will save you more money than it loses you, it's got to go. You've got to highlight it red. Okay, so anything that must go is red, and then anything that you decide, no, this expense must remain in my business, you highlight that in green. Okay, so that is step number 2, is you play red light, green light. Step number 3, take every practical step necessary to eliminate the red light expenses. Okay, so once you're not doing this as an academic exercise, you're doing this to then actually go and cut your expenses. So this is step number 3, the practicalities of doing it. Once you've got all your red expenses highlighted, you go about canceling those memberships, canceling those subscriptions, renegotiating agreements, whatever the case may be. So this is the practical job of doing the actual slashing of these costs. Now, those changes might be very small, like canceling a landline, or they might be really big, like getting out of a lease agreement and moving your business home. You know, that could save you 10, 20, 30,000 Rand a month. I can't emphasize this enough, guys. You have got to be brutal and ruthless with how you cut your budgets in a tough market. You would be very surprised, I say it again, how little of what you are currently spending money on you actually need to run your business. Did you know, guys, that if you speak to corporate turnaround specialists, you know, guys that go into struggling businesses and turn them around, or like when there's a takeover of a company, you know, the very first thing these guys do when they take over a business is they cut the costs. They go and look at the income statement and they see, what is this business spending money on? And usually that does require retrenchments, because the salary bill is normally one of the biggest in a business. But they understand this. Before we turn this business around from a marketing and revenue perspective, the first thing we do is we cut the costs of this business. So then that leads us to step number 4. Step number 4 says, then renegotiate or resource your green light expenses to reduce their cost to you. So this is the last thing you do. You then look through all the green light expenses on your spreadsheet, and you honestly, persistently, stubbornly see how you can renegotiate those things or resource them in order to reduce their costs to you each month. Okay, so that is a simple 4-step procedure for reducing your cost. 6 months bank statements to create a list of all your expenses, red light or green light all those expenses, go ahead and cancel and stop all the red light expenses, see how you can reduce the cost of your green light expenses. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, yep, yes, makes sense, good, excellent, good, yes, 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 okay, excellent. Okay, have done it already, well done, Teresa. Busy with that process, Jennifer, well done. You know, it's actually quite a rewarding experience. It's a bit painful when you first do it, because none of us like, you know, we love spending money. We don't like not spending money. But once you've done it, like, you almost, you experience a sense of freedom. Like you're beating the system. Like, man, you know what? I actually was hoodwinked into committing to all those things, and I've got 3 of them. I've got 3 of them today. Like, I feel like I'm lighter. It's an amazing exercise. I so recommend it to you. Okay, let's move on to secret number 2, which is our interview with Michelle Taylor Rebel on pricing. So you got to price with precision. And then at the end of that, we're going to look at Michelle's top 3 tips. I'll give you a little summary of it. So here we go. Give me a second while I load up the video for you and enjoy it. Here's Michelle Taylor-Rebel. It's about 12 or 13 minutes on the importance of pricing in the current market.
Hi, I'm Michelle Taylor-Rebel. I have been in the real estate industry for 24 years. First 18 years was spent doing the job of an estate agent. The last 10 years I was in the industry. I was a top performer for the company that I worked for, as well as being recognized in the top 1% of the country for the Nedbank Property Professional Awards. So after having a fantastic career in real estate, I decided it was time to give something back to the real estate industry, and that's why I chose to go into training. You must realize that currently we are in a buyer's market. So we're in a market where we have a lot of stock available, but we have a smaller buyer pool, and that buyer pool is becoming a lot more educated and a lot more selective. So sellers have still not come to the realization that we are not in a seller's market anymore. We are in a buyer's market. The buyers are dictating the prices, not the sellers. But again, this is an emotional game. Everything is based on emotion, whether it comes to selling property or buying property. And as we know, you want the most money for your house because there's an emotional value to it. The buyer wants the house, but they want to pay the lowest possible price for that property. So that's where the game changer comes in. And it's how good the agent is negotiating that process between those two parties depends on whether the result is going to be successful or unsuccessful. But at the end of the day, it all starts with the agent's relationship that she builds with that seller and the discussions that the agent needs to enter with that seller regarding correct pricing. Okay, pricing is important for one or two reasons. First thing is, I always say to an agent, it doesn't help to have 20 properties on your books. It makes you look busy and you think that you are busy. But the public's perception is when they're driving around an area and they're seeing 20 for sale boards, what doesn't make an agent look successful is when those 20 for sale boards never get converted into sold boards. And that's a public perception. Sellers are very aware of that. That's how they're going to choose an agent in an area. It's the agent that's looking the most successful. So it's not necessarily the agent that has the most for sale boards up. They're looking to see results. So when they're driving around an area, as much as it's looking at the boards, it's what is being converted. So that's the first thing. The second thing for an agent when it comes to pricing, you may have 20 listings on your book, so you're feeling successful. But in the market that we are currently in, the buyers are not responding to those listings at all. And those are figures that private property release to agents as to how many leads or hits they've generated per listing, but how many of those hits actually really generated physically into a lead, whereby the agent could now contact the client and get to then take that client to that appointment. What is happening now is that the buyers are viewing the listings, but they are not responding to them at all. And that again all comes back down to pricing. So whilst it's great you've got 20 listings being featured on any of the internet or websites, when you're not getting any calls or any hits on them, you're not producing a result. And we're in the market right now where overpriced listings are just not moving. 100%, because then it starts looking like out there, it becomes an auction site. And you know, a lot of agents say to me, yes, but the client wants 5 different agents to market the property. And I say to the agents, you know, everything in this world is perceived by what the eye can see. Have any of you taken a photo of a property where it has 5 for sale boards outside? Go put that in front of your seller and say to your seller, if you saw this outside your property, what would you as the buyer be thinking about this house? Now, it's impossible for a seller not to say, the seller looks desperate, it looks like an auction, which what happens is the buyers go, right, we're going to go in now at an incredibly low price or an incredibly low offer because this seller is now desperate, because that is the impression that he's giving. So what happens is that either the seller lands up selling for a lot less than what he should have if he had priced it properly and given it to one agent to market properly for him, versus giving it out there to 5 agents and just becoming this desperate seller, or getting 0 interest from the buyer because the buyer goes, there's something wrong with this house, we're going to avoid it. The buyers are not making snap decisions. So they are going out to see everything that is available on the market where they feel the price is realistic. And whilst they're doing that, they're watching properties sitting on the internet month after month after month after month, and watching the price come right down. So by the time it actually gets to where realistically it should have been priced in the first instance, the buyer is then going, okay, let's now go and view this property, but coming in with a much, much lower offer. Ten out of 10 appointments you're going to do, you're going to have an over-expectant seller. That it is what it is. But my advice to agents is this: have an interview with your seller, just as much as that appointment is where the seller is interviewing you to determine whether you're going to be the agent of choice. You need to interview that seller to determine for yourself as the agent, is this going to result in a successful outcome, or am I just wasting my time? So it needs to be an interview process where you're asking a couple of very pertinent questions, and a good agent will not feel shy or embarrassed to ask those questions because you're determining motivation. So in Afrikaans we have this wonderful saying, it's called wil jy ry of wil jy bly? Are you going or are you staying? So when a seller's sitting there and saying to you, well, if I get my price, then I would like to sell, understand it's generally not going to end in a successful transaction. Confidence and competence come from doing your homework and your research. 95% of all negotiations will be won by the person that comes the most prepared. We don't negotiate with opinion, we negotiate with facts. We negotiate with data. That data is the same data that every single other agent has access out there. So you're not making something up, it's black and white. The figures are the figures and the facts don't lie. People can lie with opinion or ideas or values, but the figures don't lie. What a seller doesn't often have access to is the difference between what a property listed at and what it's sold at. And there lies the very big difference. So a seller will have an expectation, well, this property listed for 3.5 million, my property has an extra larper and an extra bathroom and an extra entertainment area. So automatically the seller's going to think, well, my property is definitely worth 4.4 million. But what the seller didn't see is that that property that listed at 3.5 more than likely sold at 2.8. So it's also about, what my advice to agents is, table things in a graph. One page, very easy to understand. Tell a seller, this is what's currently for sale, similar or competing properties. This is the category that failed to sell between this price and that price. And this is what has been sold between that price and that price. And then it's about giving that graph to the seller and going, right, Mr. Seller, where would you like to price your property? And it's about having the confidence to ask that direct question. And again, it's going to determine that seller's motivation. Are they seriously motivated, or are they actually just there to test the market? That's $1 million question, because my advice is this. If it's a motivated seller, take the listing on. Because at the end of the day, the seller's he's wanting to test the market. But if he's motivated, he's going to have to very quickly become realistic about his price, because we're working to a time frame here. But price counseling shouldn't be something that starts after 30 days. Price counseling should happen after the first week. Don't leave it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then sit down with your seller, because by that time he's highly irritated with you because you haven't produced a result and he has a date which he needs to move on by. So if you're going to take on those overpriced listings, only do them in the cases where you are working with motivated sellers. Don't take them on in the case of unmotivated sellers. It's important to give the seller that feedback straight away. Tell the seller how many viewings you've had of the listing, because you may have a fantastic listing, beautiful pictures, looks great. But if the price is not right, the buyers are still not going to respond to it. So it's a case of the agents not taking the responsibility for sellers asking them to overprice their properties. It's about agents giving that responsibility back to the seller and saying, I can't perform my job because of the restriction you, Mr. Seller, have placed on me in the current market conditions that we're in. So adjust your position. Let's adjust this price. We've had X amount of hits, we've had X amount of viewings, but nobody to bring to this property. If we get realistic about the price, I'm going to get a better response. I'm going to be able to bring feet through the property. Find your market. Find the market where the activity is still happening, because it's the upper end of the market that has been most affected by those things in the industry. So choose a market where there still is the majority of the buyer pool and the majority of the affordability pool. That market currently is exceptionally active. So maybe it's about re-looking at the area that you're working in, choosing a feeder area to keep the wheels turning, not neglecting your other area, because the market eventually will change again. That's just real estate traditionally. Okay, so you can get me on my Facebook business page, which is Michelle Taylor Rebel. I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter and on LinkedIn. So please connect up with me there. Otherwise, you can contact me on my email, which is michelletr for Taylor Rebel at mweb.co.za. Or you can also connect with me on my Facebook page, which is Tailor Made Training.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Michelle. I know you're probably not on the webinar today, but thank you for your time. And I think there's so much good there. I want to pull out 3 things that I think Michelle said that were so good. These were my sort of top 3 takeaways. You may have your own. But number 1, always qualify the motivation of a seller. I thought that was absolutely brilliant and an insight. You know, should you take an overpriced listing? Her answer basically was, if it's a motivated seller, yes. And then price counsel within the first week. That's going to be one of our other tips. Now, I'm going to, in secret number 6 today, I'm going to give you a lead follow-up script that does this, that qualifies the motivation of a seller effectively. Tip number 2, be prepared with an accurate valuation. Do your homework. Don't just pitch up there like my son with his social science test. Okay, Luke, if you ever watch the replay of this video, I'm telling 428 people that you got 35% of your social science test because you were lazy. You know, night before stuff. He learned that from his father. You can't do an evaluation like that. Do your homework. Get there with a graph, a table, all the stuff that's been in the area, what the asking price was, what the selling price was. Do your homework so that she says you don't argue from opinion, you argue from facts. Okay, very good. And then lastly, price council within the first week. I think that is brilliant. So easy to let this thing drag on. 3 weeks later, there's been no interest. Seller is irritated. You're irritated. And here's the most important part. All the serious buyers have now looked at it and written it off. And then when they see the price dropping, they think there's something wrong with the place. Within the first week, get that price where it needs to be. Okay, I think those are excellent. Thank you, Michelle. We move on to secret number 3 for surviving a tough market. Get your listings to stand out from amongst the crowd. Here's an interview with Lisa Jossel, the chairperson of the Institute of Home Stagers, whatever the name of the organization is. And I thoroughly enjoyed this because I am an aesthetically completely inept. I just can't do it. I don't walk into a house and see stuff. You know, we went to have dinner at friends the other day, and my wife, first thing she says is, "Wow, look at what you've done with that wall." And then Candace, who's an interior decorator, looked at Danielle and they looked at me, and I looked, and they could see I was now looking to see what the hell they were talking about. I hadn't noticed a thing, and actually there'd been this enormous change in their kitchen. So for me to sit with someone like this, talking about how aesthetically changes that you make visually to a home can have a huge impact on how sellers respond to it, was fascinating. So here we go. Here's the interview with Lisa Jossel from Home Stagers Cape Town. She does do work around the rest of the country. So just give me a second while I load up that video. I'm just checking the chat roll, nothing serious there. Okay, here we go. Lisa Jossel, home staging, also about 12 or 13 minutes.
Well, by fluke really. It wasn't something I planned at all, but I bought a little investment property, and when I came to sell it, it was empty. And the agent said to me, "Lisa, it's never going to sell. Empty properties just don't sell. So you need to stage it." So I hadn't even heard of staging at that point. So I looked it up, and I filled the house with lovely furniture, and it looked beautiful, and hundreds of people came. And the property, which was actually quite a difficult property to sell, sold on the first show day. And that was that. And then, but a couple of weeks later, the same agent called me and said, "I know you don't do this," because I was in a completely different line of business then, "but would you be interested in staging another empty home that I've got? I want to get the mandate on it. It's been empty for 3 months. And I want to get the mandate, sole mandate, and I want to have an extra offering." So I said, "Sure," and he staged it, and it sold. And then I realized, maybe there's a business here, and I looked it up online, and I saw that it's huge in America, Australia, Canada, and moving into Europe a lot. And so why not South Africa? And that's when I started the business. So there are 2 types of staging, essentially. Although within that, people can specialize in different niches. But the 2 kinds primarily are an empty or vacant stage, and that's when you fill the house with everything it needs to present it properly to the market. And the other is when people are already living in the house, it's their home, and you want to present it differently to the market. So how does it happen? So the second one, the house where people are living, if somebody contacts me, either the seller or the agent, and together I do a consultation, a walk and talk we call it, and we have a nice clipboard, and we have all the areas demarcated in the house. We walk through the house, and I give them a lot of staging tips that can make their house look fantastic for the market. And I find that homeowners absorb it better if they themselves write down what needs to be done, and then afterwards they can choose from amongst their list what they think is important. Well, funny you ask that, because actually home staging evolved out of a recession in America, and the first person to stage homes, it wasn't even called staging in those days, she kind of coined the term, started in a recession in the 70s, so it's been going for like 40 years in the States, in a recession where you really have to attract buyers to come to your property, and you're fighting for their attention. So the house that looks the nicest, feels the nicest, lives the nicest, and appeals emotionally to the buyer is the one that'll sell. So home staging is really all about emotion. People think that it's about sellers having imagination to see the property, but it's not. It's really about making emotional connections with your target buyer. So you want every buyer to walk in and say, I love that home, I can see my family living there, and that's where I want to be cooking, showering, playing iPad. So in a recession you really need to up your game and make sure your property, whatever price range, is the one that stands out. No, not at all. I think every property should be staged, because the way we live is not the way we present our houses, our homes for the market. So once your home goes on sale, it's now just a product, like a car, basically. So like you would clean and valet and get the brakes fixed for your car, the same you should do for your house. So whatever level your house is, you should present it for that target market. You'll see in some of the photos we're going to look at that I deliberately chose properties that were not high-end, but still couldn't sell, but did sell once we staged them.
Yeah, and I was amazed looking at some of those photos, the kind of before and after,
Yeah.
of how dramatic the difference actually is.
Yeah. So an example of a very average priced house, this little house, as you can see, this is the front, and the owners, two professional people, small children, no time for looking after a garden, so it really did look very good as a first impression. So here's the before, and then in the after, what we did was very simply we gave it a coat of a very sophisticated colour, the grey, with the white trim. We covered the whole area, which was very sandy, with bark, and added some succulents. And on the right-hand side, in those window boxes, we added some little pots with flowers. So the whole impression, this is what the viewer, the buyer, saw online. And this particular house, the agent had 20 groups of people come to see it on the first show day, and of course it was sold by the second week. Off the top of my head, I would say perhaps the most important thing is what we call curb appeal. That's simply that first wow impression, because buyers actually buy not with their logic, strangely enough, even though this is probably their biggest investment throughout their lifetime, they buy with their hearts and their eyes. So that you want to make that first impression both online and in person, that a wow, beautiful impression. And that means maintaining and spending some money prettying up the front of your home. So I would put pot plants, definitely. If the soil is poor, put bark, add some succulents, give it a coat of paint, make that impression stand out. So that's number one.
Curb appeal.
Curb appeal, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Number two, something that is really important is that when buyers are buying, they're paying for every square meter of the house they're looking at. So so the more spacious a home feels, the more likely they are to buy it. And what you'll find is when we've lived in a home for a long time, we have lots of clutter. We have lots of furniture donated from our grandmothers and so on. And it's all over the place, and the place starts to look very cluttered. So you need good traffic flow between all the areas in the room and within the areas in the room. So the ability to move easily through rooms makes it feel more spacious. So definitely another tip is make sure there's good traffic flow.
And I guess that's not just the practicality of moving through the house, but the visual effect of seeing the traffic flow, the free flow through the house.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, you're already going into aesthetics. Very good, Steve.
There's hope for me.
Yeah, there's total hope. So yeah, you want to have focal points that draw the eye to different areas in the house, the strengths of the house that you want to focus on. So if you've got a long passage, you want a picture at the end so that the eye is drawn through the passage to the end, and it's not blocked by bookcases and things on the side, benches and.
Okay, awesome. So curb appeal, traffic flow.
Yeah.
What's your third one?
That's focal point, but I'll give you a fourth one. Again, as I said, we cook in our kitchens. We buy houses to live in them. We've got all our implements. But for the buyer, what they want to see is a pristine and hygienic kitchen, devoid of appliances and things on top of cupboards. So declutter your kitchen totally and make it look very, very pristine. Okay, so I have two websites. The one is for home staging services in Cape Town, and that's called Home Stages Cape Town. So that's pretty easy. And agents are free to call me for, even agents from outside of Cape Town can call me for approximate costs of staging. And the other is my Home Stages Training.co.za website, where I have a comprehensive course, but I've divided it into two, so that the first half, which is about the design and the psychology of staging, would be a great course for agents to do. It's got lots and lots of tips. You don't need to be an interior decorator. So this is a house in this seller called me after her home had been on the market for 3 months with not a single offer, and they were ready to have another baby and move on to their new life. And she'd heard me on the radio and called me in. So I gave her an hour's consult, and I explained to her that traffic flow is really very important. And as you can see here, you walk into this room, and on the left you have a sideboard, and behind that you have a children's stool, and behind that you have a dining room table, and there's just so much clutter in this room that you can't actually move easily through the rooms. So I advised her just to clean it out, and this was, as you can see, we also took the photos off the wall at the back and just made it a very clean, uncluttered, spacious area. And she wrote to me later telling me she had 3 offers in 1 week after we'd done this decluttering. I was thrilled for her.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I hope you guys got something out of that. I'm going to pull out those 3 tips again that she gave. Just to remind you, create a clean traffic flow. So decluttering and then visually creating that flow through a house by using a focal point at the end of the room. Ensure maximum curb appeal. I loved that first photograph. Jeez, what a turnaround to that mess outside that first house. It looked so good afterwards. And then number 3, declutter the kitchen. That people want to see a clean, pristine kitchen when they walk into a house. So, I mean, just those three things, even if you don't ever use a home stager, those are three great tips from Lisa that you can go and do on every home that you've listed. So excellent stuff. Thank you, Lisa. If you missed it, just take that down now. If you want more from Lisa, she's got an online course that you can do called, and that's at homestagestraining.co.za. Okay, I'm not your mother. I'm not going to leave that up for the whole day. Take it down now, and then we're done. Okay, homestagestraining.co.za. Next, secret number 4: you got to generate more leads online. Okay. It may not be yours, but this was my favorite interview of the 3. Mark is an incredibly well-researched, well-experienced guy. They've done amazing stuff in the real estate industry. In fact, I know many of you guys actually use prop data to host your websites and all of that. And I loved this interview with him. I find it so fascinating, this whole world of online marketing. So here we go. Mark Buttress from Prop Data. There's a little picture of, no, that's not a picture of Mark, but you'll see him now. Video also about 12, 13 minutes long. Here we go. Generating leads online. So this is the 4th of the 6 secrets. The final 2 after this video, I'm going to do briefly with you live. Okay, so I'll do the training on those 2. So this is the last video. Enjoy it.
Well, thanks, Steve, for inviting me to present here and give you guys some information from a prop data perspective. I got involved in the industry almost 20 years ago now. After studying at UCT, I moved over to UK for about 10 years and started working for a digital agency in London. And we developed a team specifically focusing on real estate technologies and specifically how to market real estate online. So we were one of the burgeoning companies over in the UK that developed real estate website platforms, listing management systems, and that's really where I cut my teeth in the real estate industry. I moved back to South Africa in 2006, saw a massive opportunity in terms of some of the concepts we had developed over in the UK, and started a business called Greydot, offering turnkey software solutions and internet marketing capabilities to real estate professionals. And with a colleague of mine, ran that business for 5 years, and that's really how we entered the South African marketplace. I got involved with prop data about 5 years ago. My colleague then, Scott Allnut, asked me to get involved. And we've grown the business successfully over the past years. I eventually bought him out a couple of years ago and taken over now as CEO of prop data. Well, I think the adoption and the acceptance that the move away from traditional media is now in the mainstream. We've seen instances of, for example, the CPG starting to fold away and agencies starting to put their advertising budgets into different mediums. And I think just generally the acceptance that online and the benefits that online marketing offer is a great stance. So we're seeing acceptance at all levels that the returns there are better, and a move away from a almost spray and pray approach from a marketing perspective is really what we've seen over the last sort of few years. I think they're starting to appreciate that, or be more appreciative of the fact that they want to be able to measure their returns. And this is really what online marketing, through its various channels, offers. I think they can be more strategic about where they spend and where they don't spend as a result of that visibility. And we always encourage a multi-channel approach and not just a one-channel approach. And online marketing and its various channels have evolved significantly over the last few years. And being able to leverage people where they're starting their online search, or targeting people where they start their online search, really gives real estate marketers different opportunities to focus on. So, I mean, tracking your ROI with digital marketing or online marketing is paramount. We've heard horror stories where people have tried their own paid advertising campaigns and come horribly unstuck. And this is mainly because they don't have the experience of how to best spend that budget, how to target their audience correctly, and more importantly, what returns they're actually getting off of that advertising spend. So being able to track a complete linear sort of landscape from where you're putting your budget and where you're actually getting returns and traction off of that visibility to, hey, this money actually generated a lead and converted a sale for me. That ROI or that level of ROI reporting is paramount if you're wanting to really leverage and be effective at online marketing. Well, look, obviously, syndication to the portals is generating by far the largest percentage of leads, and we continue to support the major portals in terms of syndicating stock. But at an agent level and at a branch level, we're seeing tremendous traction in social media platforms, or with the utilization of social media platforms, and in particular Facebook. Facebook allows a two-way conversation to happen with a potential client. And it allows the agent to showcase their personality and really expose themselves as the hyperlocal expert in a particular area. And users orientate with that, they appreciate that, and they like to connect at that level. And we're seeing agents leverage that two-way conversation capability really well. If they then dovetail that with additional paid advertising campaigns on the same platforms, we really see tremendous results in terms of engagement. Well, it's a good question. We deliberate this kind of stuff a lot internally at Prop Data. I think some of the key things that we've identified is really around real estate brands becoming more personal online. They've all appreciated an online presence, but our experience is that they've never been able to bring in that personality and expose it online. So I think that's going to become a key thing in the not too distant future. Obviously, with rockstar agents out there who are able to connect with people on a more personal level using social media platforms, having brands compete with those type of people online is going to be an interesting challenge going forward. The other thing that we've identified, and this is really with the advent of some of these newer real estate models coming in where they're looking to disintermediate the agent, we're seeing a need now for agents to realize that they need to expose themselves and portray themselves online in a much more professional manner. We are starting to release products like custom agent profile pages for brands, obviously Facebook pages dedicated to brands, and more recently, things like Google My Business profiles, specifically focusing on agents. That, coupled with the fact that agents need to adopt a more multi-channel online approach for themselves in terms of where they're reaching and engaging their customer, and things like intelligence gathering systems like CRM systems and marketing automation systems, and being able to leverage those to be more effective in the market. Yes. Look, obviously agents can be backed by a brand, and I always see value there. There's definitely value that the brand can bring to the equation. But what we've got to appreciate is the agent is the hyperlocal expert. And if they are able to expose themselves and their knowledge more effectively using a multi-channel marketing approach, their connection with the end consumer is always going to be more powerful. If they then start to leverage additional technologies like I've mentioned, CRM systems, marketing automation systems to sort of back up that engagement with their end customer, then they become a really powerful playing force in the market. So, I mean, past data tells us this, that people are hyperlocally focused. They have become more intelligent about what they're looking for and how they're looking for it. But what we've got to appreciate is that people, orientate about their immediate sort of location, and that's generally how they behave in the real world. So by an agent exposing content that's really hyperlocal focused to the consumer that might be interested in purchasing or renting a property in that area, that's generally how people are going to be searching and finding that information. It's a lot easier for agents who are exposing that kind of information online to also rank for that kind of information and have it found if it's very purpose driven and focused on a very hyperlocal area sort of structure, as opposed to being generalistic and competing with more information that might be presented online. Good question, and there's certainly things that they can be adopting. We've recently launched a new free online marketing course, which is available for anyone to sign up. And we cover topics from branding through to curating content around effective listings, through to the social media platforms and paid advertising campaigns. And you're able to sign up for that course and really understand a bit more about all of these concepts that are coming to the fore. It really enables agents to start asking the right questions, and I think that's an important first step for everyone to take. Some other things to consider: content. Content is king in our world and in the marketing world, and certainly in the online world. And if an agent's able to take the time, we appreciate not everyone's a copywriter and a linguist, but if you're able to take the time and prepare decent copy about your hyperlocal area and place it in the multi-platforms and mediums that are available for you to do so, that enables you to start connecting with a broader audience just off the bat. Some other things, some free tools, which we advise agents and offices to always do. Google My Business offer a free business listing directory. Every office and every agent out there should have a Google My Business listing. More recently, they've done a lot of work on that platform to combat some of the traction that Facebook are gaining. And they've improved some of the tool sets available to better showcase your Google My Business listing. So for example, you're able to post content on there now, post photographs, get client reviews, and all of this information is exposed via the Google Display Network on Google Maps, in the Google Search Index, and basically throughout the Google Display Network. And it really gives you the ability to expose yourself free of charge if you're prepared to put the time and effort in. Well, obviously, we've got a plethora of services and technologies that we can, help tailor towards an individual agent's exposure online. These range from sort of curated agent microsites through to content production to expose themselves in the hyperlocal areas that they operate in more specifically, through to social media campaigns, paid advertising campaigns, even through to the extent of writing social media posts for them on a daily basis to help them gain a better audience. So what we normally encourage is that you meet face-to-face with one of our specialist consultants. We go through an audit exercise where we understand a bit more about your business, your challenges, and the specific market that you're dealing in. And then we almost curate a solution for you based on your budget, obviously, and the things that we think would add most value in terms of solving some of the challenges that you're facing. And from there, we put together a quote and a solution. The beauty about the way Prop Data Structures is offering is it's a la carte menu, and we can build on that over time as you start to see value. And that's kind of how we work over time.
Okay, so in the sticky bar above the chat roll, you will see that I have put a link in there, which if you click it will take you to a page where you can you can get a prop data consultant to come and sit with you. So it's one of the things I negotiated with Mark. I said I want anybody who's on the webinar to be able to sit with a prop data consultant. So they said, sure, we'll do it. So if you click that link, it'll take you to a special page where you can do one of two things on that page. Actually, you can register for that free prop data course. And I mean, why not do it? It's there. Take advantage of it. Or you can book a one-on-one appointment with one of their online marketing specialists, and they'll sit with you and they can put together a plan for you if you then decide to go and work with them further. So please do take advantage of what I'm making available on these webinars. You know, so much time and effort goes into producing a webinar like this, getting all the service providers, getting them to add something of value to you. And I think it's foolish not to take advantage of it. So go for it, guys. So Mark's top 3 tips. Here we go. So this is how I kind of distilled out the most important things for you guys. Number 1, register for the free course. Why not? It's there. Number 2, constantly create hyper-local content and publish it in multiple online channels. So you are taking photographs of stuff that's happening in your area. You are writing articles about local bylaws, or the local primary school is having a fete this Saturday, or hyper local content, and you're putting it on all your online channels, and constantly publishing, because what he says is that will get you to rank much higher in the search, Google search rankings, because the national brands and the portals cannot compete with that kind of hyper local content. They can't produce it. You can produce it. So I thought that's brilliant. And then lastly, set up a Google My Business profile. I actually did that. And I'll tell you what, in the chat roll, I will put a link to the page where you do that. Okay, I'm just copying it for you here. So chat roll, I'm not going to replace the sticky bar at the top. I'm just going to put it at the top of the roll. There's the link if you want to open a Google My Business profile. It's free, and Google are putting a lot of investment into that to try to get the searches to land there. And obviously Google can do that because they own Google. You know, Facebook don't own Google. So Google are I think it's a massively powerful thing that they're doing there for local businesses. Okay, so that's our 3 interviews. Thank you to Bang. The interviews were excellent. Most importantly, thank you, Stephen. Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad you got value out of those 3 interviews. So let's move on, guys. We're going to move into, so click that link at the top of the chat roll and then get that free marketing consult. That's what the page looks like that you'll land on when you click that link that's in the sticky bar at the top. Okay, secret number 5. Now, this is what I'm going to take you through quickly. Generate more leads offline. How do you do that? I can't give you a comprehensive answer now. We don't have enough time. I've only got half an hour left on the webinar. We've still got 2 secrets to do. But I'm going to give you an overview of what my referral system looks like. Now, why referral? Because I am 100% convinced of this. The best way to generate leads offline is not cold calling, not direct mail, not geographic farming, none of that stuff, not advertising. It is this. It is by referral. Building a referral base, a group of relationships with key people who are supporting your business. Okay, here's research that was done by the National Association of Realtors in the States. This is only a couple of years ago. Very similar in South Africa. Here's what the stats told us. 42% of sellers find their agent through a referral. That's radical. A further 24% use the agent they previously worked with. That's repeat business. So those 2 things are 42% referral business, 24% repeat business. You add those 2 things together, because those are the 2 things that my system will get you. Far more repeat and referral business. You get 66% of all the listings taken in this country. And it is similar in South Africa. 66% of all the listings taken are coming through some kind of relationship. And I bet if you were to make a list of the last 20 listings you've taken, and then next to that, each of the listings, you write down where you got the lead from. Okay, not the buyer lead, the seller lead. Where did you get the lead from to list this property? I'm pretty sure it's going to be close to that. 66% of them, 2/3 of them, it was like a past client referred you to someone, someone heard about you through a friend, or this is a client that you've worked with for previously, a repeat business. Go and do that exercise, and you'll be interested to see what the results are. Okay, so if the best way to work is by referral, here's what you've got to understand about working by referral. This is the fundamental basis of my whole system. Referrals have got to be generated proactively. That means you do something to create the referrals. You don't just sit around and wait for them to come. You do a good job. Everyone's going to love me because I provide such wonderful service. And surely my phone's going to ring. Surely. No, it doesn't ring because that's word of mouth. Word of mouth is very different to working by referral. Working by referral is a systematic endeavor. That's why I say this is done by having a system, a relationship building, referral business harvesting system. Okay, and I can teach you that. Now, where do I teach this system? It takes 7.5 hours for me to teach that system. I teach it on an online course called The Successful Real Estate Agent. Now, don't confuse this with the Hit Summer Running Mentorship Program. That's going to be an ongoing mentorship program where I lead you by the hand. This is an online course. Now, those of you who get onto the Hit Summer Running program, part of the program is you get this course because you've obviously got to learn the system, and then I'll lead you through it. So here is an overview of what the referral system looks like. Well, we're going into the apple business, right? We're trying to grow and harvest healthy apples. What are the apples? Well, repeat and referral leads. Those are the things we're trying to cultivate with our system. Now, if you go into the apple business and you want to harvest beautiful ripe apples, you have to have apple trees on your farm. I know this is very deep stuff, but just track with me. You've got to have trees. Why? Because apples come from trees. They don't just pop out of nowhere. Now, the same is true of repeat and referral business. Where do you get repeat and referral business from? It doesn't just pop out of nowhere. Well, you get repeat and referral business, as I've been saying, from relationships. It's people who know, like, and trust you, who are happy to use you repeatedly, and who are happy to refer you to their family and friends. Make sense? Relationships are the key. So our apple tree is a group of strategically selected relationships, and we're going to call that a database. Now, in my system, I will be teaching you how to build strategic relationships with about 100 people. Now, I don't have time to go into the whole speech around why so few, because, geographic farming normally says, no, you've got 3,500 people in your selling area. You got to farm, you got to farm that area. You got to flyers, you got to put adverts up, you got to be publicly present. Now, I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. Fine, go ahead and do it. But I'm saying, no, there's this very small group within all of that, and some of them may not even live in the area, but they know people in the area, of the 100 people that you think are most likely to refer you or to use you themselves. So that's what I mean by the word database. Right. Once you've got your database, you need sunshine and rainfall. Okay, that's what makes your apple tree fruitful. So relationships with your database don't grow in a vacuum. You've got to get proactive around your relationship building. How do you do that? Well, there's a combination of two types of communication that I'm going to mentor you through implementing. Number one, written communication. We're going to send them stuff, but not just any stuff. There's a list of 6 written communication tools that I teach on the Successful Real Estate Agent course that we know increase the responsiveness of a database. Okay, so we'll get into those in the course. Written communication. Now, is it enough to just send people stuff? Is that going to build deep, meaningful relationships of trust with people? No. What do you have to combine written communication with? You send people stuff, but you've got to combine that with something. Yes, and I know you're saying face-to-face, whatever. I call this thing personal contact. You've got to follow up your written communication with personal contact, because that's really what builds relationships. There's the content and the value of what you're sending. They value the stuff, but then there's the human element that you follow up with. There are 3 types of personal contact that I will teach you. One of them has 3 subsets, and that you all learn on the seminar as well. Right. When you are having personal contact with people, one of the biggest mistakes salespeople make is they do not ask for referrals. Now, I'm going to teach you how to ask for referrals in a relationally sensitive and yet business fruitful way. There are clever ways to ask for referrals. Now, that's what this little dude climbing up his ladder to go and harvest those apples. You've got to go and get the apples. Same thing with repeat and referrals. You've got to use well-designed strategic dialogues, and there are 6 of those dialogues that you use at different moments of your business. And again, I teach that on the seminar. Then the last 2 things, the fragile container. Once you've harvested a lead, you've obviously got to provide an exceptional level of service. Part of working by referral is being an agent that provides exceptional service. Now, I have written a book. That's what the fragile container is, service excellence. Sorry, let's go back. I've written a book called Wildfire Service Excellence. It is the 6 research-proven service techniques that estate agents can implement during the course of a transaction that will get that client raving about you afterwards, happy to refer you. Okay, now, for those of you who did that little Facebook share, you got that book for free. I think it's 150 Rand or something on my website. If you want it, you can still go and buy it off my website. But for those of you who got it for free, go and read it. It is a fantastic little book on those 6 service excellence techniques. Okay, so what I want to do I've got a couple of minutes. I want to just give you something practical that you can go and do towards working by referral. The first 4 steps in setting up this whole referral system is organizing your database. Now, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to give you these 4 steps, and I'm going to talk about 2 of them in a little bit more detail. Number 1, you build your list. You make a big list of every human being on the planet that you know. This is the first step when you work by referral. Okay, it's one of the first things I'm going to get you to do in our mentorship program. You go and make a list of every human being you know on the planet. I don't care if you like them or you don't like them. If you will keep in touch with them, if you will never keep in touch with them, I don't care. Put the names on the list, because this is a brainstorming exercise. One name will remind you of 3 other names. Just get all the names on the list. Right, once you've made your list, you then sort that list. You go through that list with a highlighter, and you highlight every single person on that list who you think is highly likely, or at least you've got a very positive feeling that this person would refer you or use you themselves. Okay, so what you're looking for here, when you sort this list down, you're going to highlight the names. You're looking for about 100 people, 100, that you think are the most likely on this list to use you themselves or to refer you to others. I hope you got that, okay? Because that's step number 2, sorting your 100 out. We call those 100 people your advocates. Okay. So in the chat role, so guys, I don't have, obviously I don't have time to action those things now. Send me an email if you have a problem with the value items that I've given you the link to download or whatever. You can always contact me by email, and I am around. Okay, number 3, just be polite with your emails. If you're not, I tend to just delete them and move on with my day. Number 3, capture. Right, what do you do with these 100 names when you've got them? Well, you've got to type them up somewhere. You've got to have a contact management system, or a CRM, client relationship management system, okay? I don't care what you use as your CRM system. And in fact, for those of you who get on my program, I make an Excel spreadsheet available that is kind of on steroids. It's got different tabs and stuff that we've set up to track the various things that we do with our system. So you can actually just use Excel. But if you've got a contact management system that you get from your company, use that. It's good. Okay, then capture. Then the last one is prime. I don't have time to go through that today. We will do that on the program. You phone through everyone and you use one of the 6 dialogues with them in order to prime them, get them up and running as a referral source as you launch your system. Okay, so that's the referral side of things. That's secret number 5, is to generate more leads offline. If you don't want to get on the Hit Summer Running program, the mentorship program, okay, because it comes at a cost, obviously, and you just want to buy the Successful Real Estate Agent course. You can do that on my website, just over 6,500 Rand for the course. Worth every cent. If you're not happy within 30 days, I will refund your money. Okay, I stuck in a slide here with another testimonial. This was a client of ours in the Midlands. She said, as a direct result of one of these referral strategies, I generated 43 referrals leading to 5 sales and 10 listings and ended up getting my business in the local press. With Stephen's system, you work 100% you spend 100% of your time and one-all money working only by referral, and you are not the typical estate agent anymore. Okay, thank you, Trish. Yeah, Trish was someone else whose business was completely revolutionized by our system. Okay, last one. Here we go. Okay, so this little secret is about getting more face-to-face appointments. So research continually proves that the single biggest principle for beating your opponents to a sole mandate, it is to be the first to get a face-to-face appointment. I want to read a quote to you from Gary Keller's book, Shift. Now, this is a brilliant little book, and I think every estate agent in the current market should read it, because he calls a transition into a bad economy, he calls that a shift. And this book is about what agents need to do in a shifting market. So please do yourself a favor, invest in this book, read it, it'll help you. This is a quote from Keller's book. The only purpose in finding a lead is landing an appointment. It's all about getting to the table. Now, when he says getting to the table, he means the kitchen table, okay, to make your listing presentation. NAR research over the years has consistently communicated that the real competition in real estate is getting to the table, not at it. Okay, so what do they mean by that? The competition that you face in getting all the sole mandates is not once you're sitting at the table, now you've got to produce a better presentation than your competitor. That's not it. Once you've got to the table, it's virtually won, is what the research is telling us. Okay, their revealing statistics show that approximately 2/3 of all buyers and sellers only interview one agent. That's fascinating. You think they're meeting with 10 agents to make a decision, they're not. And approximately half of the remainder only interview 2. Getting to the table first or second is what matters. And this makes conversion more important than presentation. Conversion, he means from lead to appointment. That conversion rate is what matters. It's more important than the presentation that you give. The competitive battle is almost single-handedly won simply by getting an appointment before someone else does. Getting an appointment before someone else does. The number one challenge you face after you've encountered a lead opportunity is not making a winning presentation, it's winning the appointment. That is an absolutely fascinating and brilliant insight, because it can change strategically what you do in your business. It will put an emphasis on this thing of converting leads to appointments. Now, here are my top 3 tips on lead follow-up. Number 1, make sure that the prospect is expecting your call. Make sure that the prospect is expecting your call. This especially works when you get a referral, and I will teach you how to do this in our system. When you get a lead, when you follow that lead up, if at all possible, get the person who gave you the referral to tell that person about you, so that when you phone, they are already expecting the call. That makes a huge difference to your lead follow-up conversion to appointments. Number 2, do not let your lead follow-up calls slip through the cracks. Make lead follow-up a priority in your business. You know, this is one of those things that will, you get a lead, you get a couple of leads come in, you're not quite sure the quality of those leads, but you've got so many other things to do that day that you don't get to them, and then a week goes by and there's this little scrap of paper on your desk and you still haven't followed those leads up. That is a cardinal error in real estate. You have to follow up your leads immediately. And I think the rule should say, lead comes in, before the sun goes down that night, you follow that lead up. Don't let it slip through the cracks. And then find a good dialogue that works for you. Okay, that does two things. Here's what your dialogue has got to do. This is now the telephone dialogue. I follow up the lead. Hi, Mr. Jones. This is so-and-so Steve Johnston from Steve Johnston Real Estate. Now, what do you say? How do you do this? Get a script. It's got to do two things. Number one, qualify the client. Remember what Michelle said. Qualify the seller to gauge the seriousness of the seller. Qualify the lead and then effectively secure an appointment. That's what your lead follow-up script must do. Now, at the top of the page, in fact, it's not on the top of the page. I am going to share a file with you. Share a file. Okay, I have produced a lead follow-up script that does those two things. It qualifies the client and it secures an appointment. Don't argue with it. Use it word for word when you follow up clients. If you want that follow-up script, download it for free on the webinar. Okay, I'm going to leave that file up for about another 10 seconds. Click the download file button and it'll download it onto your computer. Okay, you're welcome. Right, that's what it looks like. Okay, I know it's too small for you to read because your eyesight is going, because you've hit your 40s. As mine, no, actually, I'm still okay without glasses, but I'm like sitting in bed at night now. Whoa, okay, got to hold this thing a little bit further away. So it looks like that. You can download it from the file sharing thing on the right hand side. Right, I'm taking it down in 3, 2, 1. It's going. Now the problem is I've got to wait 5 seconds, and then it'll only be 3, 2, 1 for you then. So it's going now. Okay. Again, if you failed to get this, I'm not your mother. Don't email me. No, you can email me, and I'll send you a link to it. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing the thing now. It's gone. Right, now to close, we have 8 minutes left. Let's summarize. The 6 secrets for surviving tough markets. Cut your costs, price with precision, stage your properties well, generate more leads online, generate more leads offline with a good referral system, and convert more leads to appointments. Those are the 6 things that will get you to survive and build momentum towards summer if you do them. Now, let's talk about the Hit Summer Running Mentorship Program. How does it work? Well, first thing that I'm going to make sure you get, if you're not already, some of you have already bought this, and that's fine, but if you haven't, as part of this package, you get the Successful Real Estate Agent course, okay? Because you've got to obviously watch the course and learn the whole system. That is worth 6,650 Rand in this package. So I'm going to show you how the price of the package is made up. I also want you to have the audio version of the course. Why? Because a system like mine, with all its little moving pieces, you can't just watch the videos once. You've got to immerse yourself in this content. How do you do that with video? Very difficult, but with audio you can. You can put the audio files, the MP4 files on your phone, put them on an iPod. When you're at gym, you're listening. When you're going for your walk, you can cut them onto CDs if you want. Burn some CDs using your computer, and you can put that in your car while you're driving around. Okay, that's $1,400 for the audios. Then fortnightly coaching. Okay, so my coaching costs about $6,000 a month. Okay, if you want to be coached by me one-on-one, and that's a 12-month agreement. So it's about a 70,000 Rand commitment if you want to be coached one-on-one. However, what this does is it enables us to shorten that process. I've pulled out a whole bunch of stuff, and we're leaving in the most important activities you've got to do in the next 4 months to hit summer running. The way this works is we will all gather on a webinar together starting on Tuesday next week on the 3rd, every 2 weeks. It's a closed, private, members-only webinar. And on that webinar, I will teach you piece by piece how to implement the system. So each webinar, it'll just be a few little things that you've got to understand All right, you go and do those over the next 2 weeks. We all come back together. You've done those. Okay, what's the next step? Then we put the next piece in, put the next piece in, put the next piece in. It is such a powerful process, and I encourage you to look at it. That's 24 grand because it's only the 4 months, not 12 months. Plus, then there's a 1 hour consultation with Lisa Jossel, and that's $1,000 value. So if you get onto the Hit Summer Running program, you get an hour with one of your listings. So you can phone her. You'll send her an email and you'll set up that appointment with her, and you'll do it over Skype, and you can show her photographs of the property and she'll give you ideas on how to stage it, which I think is fantastic. She'll even talk to your seller if you want her to. Right, so total 33,275 Rand. Now, dates starts this coming Tuesday, the 3rd of September, ends, sorry, that should say December, not the 10th of November, 10th of December, okay? It goes all the way through to mid-December. And it's every 2 weeks on the webinar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this this button up on the screen, okay? If you want to join the program, there's limited places. You hit the Join the Program button that you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen now. Okay, so if you hit that button, once you put your credit card details in and you've registered, please listen to this, guys. Just give me 1 minute now. You are going to see a page that looks like this. On that page, there is a 7-minute video which you must watch. Okay, it'll start automatically as you put your credit card details in. Yes, join. That's the page you're going to see. The video will start playing. Please sit and watch the video. Why? Because there is homework that you must complete by Tuesday. Okay, we're already going to be kicking off the system from today. There's some things that I want you to prepare for Tuesday. And then there are a couple of other bits of admin that are very important that I cover. There's 5 things I cover on that video. Please watch the video. Okay? Right, so what is the cost of the program? Not 33,000 Rand because it's a tough market. So what doing this by webinar allows me to do, rather than one-on-one, is to bring the cost down substantially. I'm taking about 85% off this as the total cost. And then I'm allowing you to pay monthly, okay? I do not accept EFTs, okay, because I've had too many people make promises and then they don't make the EFTs. So you pay by credit card, the money will come off 4 times, today and then 30 days later, 30 days later, 30 days later. So you're paying over 4 payments at 6,000 Rand, 1,500 Rand per month. So all you have to do, guys, is you've got to find 1,500 Rand in your budget. The cost-cutting exercise will help you to do that. This is a green light because this will make you money. Okay? Cut out some of the other stuff that won't. 1,500 Rand per month. All you got to do is click that Join the Program Now button. You've got about 28 minutes to make your decision, and then I'm going to take that off. I'm going to close the webinar down. Okay, so that's it. What I'll do now is I'm going to shut my camera off and my microphone off. I am still here. So if I see questions or problems, I can respond to them. And then once the 27 minutes now is gone, I'm going to close things down. So if you want to join me for this 4-month journey, come and join me. You won't regret it, I promise you. 1.5 grand a month. Click that Join the Program Now button. Thanks to the Institute of Estate Agents. And I look forward to taking the journey with you if you do join the program. So cheers for now.